Credit to you, man. Credit to you. Whilst Lando Norris did win over the weekend, there was a bit of, how do I describe this? A shitplosion between Elon Musk and the EU. I'll let you take it away, my man.
Yeah, so the EU really broke some pretty big barriers in terms of free speech and what they sort of define as free speech. They've come out and they fined X for non-compliance with transparency obligation under the DSA. So we're holding X accountable. This is from the European Commission. They said we're holding X accountable for deceptive design of its blue check mark, lack of transparency of its advertising repository, and failure to provide access to public data for researchers. So there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, I want to talk about the deceptive design of the blue check mark. Okay, let's compare the new system to the old system. So before, the blue check mark was like a club. You had to know someone in Twitter. You had to pay 15,000, 20,000 to a Twitter employee for them to approve your blue check mark. It was like an us and them type mentality behind it. And Elon basically democratized the blue check mark. You say, okay, if you pay X amount, you can be verified on Twitter. Because realistically, verification should come. If I'm on Twitter, I want to make sure that no one else can impersonate me, right? So it should be, democratized, of course. And yeah, they're basically fining him for its deceptive design. I don't even know what that means. But, of course, there were a lot of people talking against it. Biggest one, of course, is Elon. He has a few tweets here. He says, how long before the EU is gone? Abolish the EU. He says the EU should be abolished and sovereignty returned to the individual countries so that governments can better represent their people. Now, I want to just sit on this one for a second. What the EU is essentially a trade-off between sovereignty and the free market. So the sovereign nations are basically allowing themselves to be ruled by unelected bureaucrats in a trade-off to have access to the European market, the free market. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about it like that, they're completely unelected bureaucrats and they're deciding and kind of dictating what free speech is, when every country has a different interpretation of what that means. So it's really quite draconian when you think about it, as in none of these people are elected. They all rule over all of the countries within the EU. The sovereignty of the nation is dictated by EU law. EU law supersedes individual nation law. It's getting worse and worse. And obviously they're attacking free speech because they don't control free speech. And that's really the sort of key basis behind it. Now, you've had a lot of other people coming out as well. A lot of people from the US side. We have got Secretary Mark Rubio statement here. He says, the European Commission's $140 million fine isn't just an attack on X, it's an attack on all American tech platforms and the American people by foreign governments. The day of censoring Americans online are over. And the US ambassador to the EU replied to that tweet. He said, today's excessive €120 million fine is the result of EU regulatory overwatch targeting American innovation. The Trump administration has been clear. We oppose censorship and will challenge burdensome regulations that target US companies abroad. We expect the EU to engage in fair, open, and reciprocal trade, nothing less. You've also had the Prime Minister of the Netherlands come out. And bear in mind, the Netherlands is still part of the EU. He says, no one elected you. You represent no one. This is replying to the European Commission's tweet announcing their fine. So he said, nobody elected you. You represent no one. You are a totalitarian institution and can't even spell the words freedom of speech. We do not accept this fining of X. Abolish the EU Commission. And of course, you've had Ben Habibi come out.
Wait, was that Dick Schuff?
Yes.
Yeah, he came out and said that.
Sorry, it was Geert Wilders.
Oh, okay, so that's not the Prime Minister.
Oh, he's the head of the PVV party.
Yeah. So he's just like he's a politician, yeah, but he's a member of the House of Representatives of the Netherlands.
Oh,
he's not the Prime Minister though. Just to add that there.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously he's a massive respondent on free speech.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have Ben Habibi come out as well and said, I'm delighted Elon Musk sees the EU for what it is. Keir Starmer is taking us into a military union with the EU. That would be the end of an independent British military. Think about that for a moment. An anti-democratic, anti-British institution in control of our military. Starmer himself is anti-British. So yeah, quite a lot to unpack there. What are your thoughts on obviously this battle between EU regulation and lawmakers and Elon within the US?
No, I just wanted to add something here quickly, just before I give you my opinion, because you just said about Keir Starmer and was it Ben Habib said that, right?
Yeah.
So there's also reports, all over the weekend as well, whilst this is all going on, Keir Starmer refused to rule out rejoining the EU as the Prime Minister prepares for crunch talks. Keir Starmer has refused to rule out rejoining the European Union in his lifetime as the Prime Minister prepares to crunch talks with continental countries about how we can be closer. Keir, who campaigned for a second referendum as Jeremy Corbyn's shadow Brexit secretary, declined to comment on his stance on the bloc 5 times during an interview with The Observer. The Prime Minister's comments come just 18 months after he ruled out rejoining the EU ahead of the 2024 general election. Keir is also coming under pressure, as we know, from within inside his party. But again, Keir, we know that is his stance there, and we feel that over the last 18 months he's been trying to pull us closer to the EU. But I just find that very interesting there, by the way, because he's refusing that, but rejoining or a referendum to join the EU is not in his manifesto pledges. So that cannot be a thing. He should be coming out and saying, no, that's not in my plans. But it just feels like we're getting closer to them.
Exactly. He's saying like never say never.
Yeah, exactly, which is BS. With regard to this, the EU is. I really don't like the EU, and they are obviously trying to suppress free speech, much like what we were doing with the Online Safety Act of our own. They've got their own sort of safety act, and that's where it's coming into play. But yeah, no, I don't. I'm never going to choose the side of the EU whatsoever, but I do find I like that Musk comes out and exposes all of this sort of stuff and talks about it and defends it. But yeah, what to watch out for next, I'm not so sure. Will X comply and overhaul its verification, add transparency and data access systems? Will they do it or will they not?
Well, one of the key points as kind of where this feud started is that essentially the EU tried to get a backdoor into X. Now, this is from about 2024.
Yeah.
And then Elon tweeted about it, and he said he basically exposed the EU for saying, look, we're not going to do this.
It's a bit like Britain, though. Britain was trying to do that with
Apple.
Apple, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. They're overstepping their mark. They're stepping on the feet and the toes of American companies, our closest ally.
That's the thing. It's the American companies here.
Exactly.
That they're trying to control.
100%. So, this goes back a long way, and it's clear that the EU have been deciding over the course of the last year what to do with Elon and how they can sort of rein in and control his platform. Now, the key part I want to focus on is that no other platform is getting fined. So that means that all the other platforms must have bent the knee and given the EU what they wanted. Because the only reason X is getting fined right now is because they are standing strong. They are not bending the knee, and they're not sort of, allowing this governmental overreach to, control his platform. If you look at Facebook, if you look at Instagram, maybe in LinkedIn, other places as well, obviously they're going to be allowing this censorship to happen.
Interesting, because you just said that and it just made me remind me. We made a point-blank TikTok once. And, and the TikTok reel got taken down. And I was thinking, I just got the notification through. Something been taken down. I was like, which one's been taken down? And it was the reel of us talking about the EU and its comparison to the USSR.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it went mad viral as well. It was that viral as well. I think it was like 300K on TikTok or something like that. It went crazy. And it got taken down. Interesting.
Isn't that
Interesting,
wild?
yeah. So TikTok, the EU's been controlling TikTok there then.
Yeah.
Again, that's my opinion. It's not necessarily fact, but something's a little bit fishy, especially with the thing that's come out here.
Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Because it's clear that obviously no other, social media platform was being fined by this.
Yeah.
This.
So TikTok have been complying.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that comparison I was talking about in that video was kind of like this overreaching centralization of democratic decisions that the EU seems to have over Europe. And it was the same kind of structure that the USSR had over Russia and its territories. Centralized propaganda, alleged free market, or obviously the USSR had 100% government market, so there was no free market. But yeah, there was a lot of different comparisons you could actually make between the USSR and the EU. And obviously it's interesting that was the one that got taken down, right? I mean, we have our own testament to that happening.
Yeah. I mean, we posted quite a lot of stuff during that period, and that was the only one that got taken down. TikTok's woke as well, but some of the ones that I would have thought would have got taken down before that, there was a few other ones that may have been, a bit more edgy than that. In my personal opinion, I thought that was just common knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, either way, yeah. That's the reason why. It's fucked. But you make a point on that. I wonder where YouTube have been standing on things like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to look at the history
YouTube pushed
of
back
YouTube.
quite a lot. No, YouTube, I'm going to stand up for YouTube. I'm not just saying it's one of the platform, but they do. I mean, do you remember the AY audits?
Yes.
Some dude cuts about the hotels and exposes them, and basically Channel 4 did like a hit piece on them. And we're like, this dude is just going into a hotel, recording all of these stuff and whatnot, and earning ludicrous amount of money. That's what the hit piece that they were trying to do, right? And Channel 4 then went to YouTube and said, why is this channel still up? And we said, we reviewed this channel and it doesn't violate our terms of services.
Wow. So Channel 4
Channel
is
4
almost
grasses, a little grass. Yeah, like, get away.
They're almost being like an extension of the government sort of pressure arm, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How dare they?
No, a little snitch.
Yeah.
And they'll go through their stuff and have a look what they've violated over the years.
Oh, of course. I'm sure they've got some skeletons in their closet.
But that's what I'm saying. So Channel 4 obviously, YouTube obviously, looked at that, what they thought was something, and then went, oh, no, it's okay. So, yeah. But that wasn't the government, though, that was Channel 4. And
there was also an interesting one from America, and it was kind of a similar story. There was a return to land. That's what it's called. It's basically a self-described community of people from America, and they have I'm not saying I agree with this, but they basically say it's like whites only, European heritage only.
Right.
And they're kind of like trying to break the mold on trying to find the lawyers and find a legal ground that they can make this happen. Anyway, I think it was either Sky or the BBC did like a documentary on them, and then they were the ones to actually report them to the police or make a formal complaint against them. And then they had loads of people like sue them, or like the state sue them, essentially saying this was illegal. But it's like a British journalist, British broadcasting company basically snitching on this like American community. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what gives them the right,
I don't know. Idiots.
But yeah, in terms of the whole the Elon and EU, Elon is one to sacrifice money for principle. We saw that with Twitter.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, he has loads of money, but like,
it's principle. He's got his values as a person.
100%. And you have to remember that there was a massive boycotting against Twitter. They tried to kill the company when he bought it, and they lost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of revenue because of the sort of nationwide boycotting on X. And Elon stood there firm and fair, and he said, take your money. Take it. But if he was just so principled about it. He's not gonna bend the knee and fight, because at the end of the day, he put 44 billion into a company that was essentially worth 10, because they had inflated the number of active users on it by sort of 10 or 15x. What Elon is doing there is fighting for the future civilization. He's fighting for the free press. He's fighting for truth to be heard, and more power to him.
Well, apparently, though, if he has non-compliance under these sort of EU regulations as well, by the way, they can get fined up to 6% of their global revenue. Wow. That's messed up, isn't it?
That's insane.
And it's an American company. I think that's where Trump and the Americans need to step in here and say, no, American company, we will dictate what happens with an American company. You lot ain't telling us. You can monitor your own companies, but you ain't telling us and you can't fine our companies. I don't think that should be acceptable.
Yeah, how insane is it that they have the cheek to say that America is dictating and changing and sort of doing like election meddling in the EU, but then the EU tried to stop Donald Trump from sitting down with Elon Musk before the 2024 presidential election.
Really?
Yeah, they sent a letter here. I can read it out if you want me to.
Oh, I think, go read it. I think I've seen a little bit, actually.
It's a long one.
Yeah, just summarize it, yeah.
It says, I'm writing to you in the context of recent events in the United Kingdom and in relation to the planned broadcast of your platform on X of a live conversation between a US presidential candidate and yourself, which will also be accessible to users in the EU. I understand that you are currently doing a stress test of the platform. In this context, I am compelled to remind you of the due diligence obligations set out in the Digital Services Act, as outlined in my previous letter. As the individual entity ultimately controlling a platform with over 300 million users worldwide, of which 1/3 are in the EU, has been designated a very large online platform, you have the legal obligation to ensure X's compliance with EU law and in particular DSA. So essentially they're like, yeah, you have to ask us for permission to do this, and if you don't, we don't want it to be broadcasted to the EU. So they were obviously trying to meddle in the US election, and now they're claiming that an American company is meddling in European elections because of this sort of opening of free speech. And that's also happening across Europe as well, and across the UK, because we enjoy the same services and the same freedoms as the Americans do, obviously on X.
It's mad that all these liberal leaders are just trying to block free speech. It's mad. It's literally a carbon copy. It's like we're like a few years behind America. Like it literally happened with Kamala Harris, not Kamala Harris, but the Democrats. Previously under Joe Biden, and then they're sort of copying the same sort of blueprint like that's already been tried and tested, and look how that worked out. But the UK are doing the same thing with the Online Safety Act, and then they're doing this as well with their Online Safety Act.
Yeah,
it's messed up.
Yeah, it's just wild, and this is not a fight they're going to win. What I want to see is Trump utilize and leverage tariffs on the EU, and I'm so glad we're not part of this market anymore. And we are.
I think they did though, didn't they? They put quite high tariffs on them.
Well, he did, but it's all in relation to imports and exports, and it's like a percentage or like a division of that number essentially. But obviously, in relation, if they do actually find up to 6% of global revenue, which is a massive number, I don't even want to know how much that is as a fine, by the way. Genuinely speaking, their profit is not going to be more than 6%. But yeah, I want to see Trump say, okay, well, if you do that, then you have no access to America as a market. So yeah, let's put 30, 40, 50% tariffs on. This is the game that they're playing, and they're not going to win. America have all the leverage, they have all the innovation, they have all the social media companies. They will lose this game.
I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to see the full uninterrupted podcast, please do become a member by pressing join. Or if not, then continue to support us by pressing like and subscribe, and we'll keep you up to date with all of these clips. Take care.